Good morning, students. It's Mr. Diefenbach. I'm just checking in with you this morning because you are going to be needing to hand in 2 examples for your enduring issues tomorrow. And I want to make sure that you're being detailed, thorough, and including good information in your graphic organizers. Some of you I've been looking through. Good morning, students. Today is Thursday, the 23rd of April. And I know that you have your 2 examples due tomorrow for your enduring issues. Today I wanted to show you in your enduring issues organizer some concerns that I have that I'm looking at. One is that you need to make sure that you're filling this out. It's not optional. You need to make sure that you have your enduring issue listed, questions that you have about your enduring issue, like why did discrimination exist over these periods of time? Why did African Americans get imported from Africa to work in the South? Why did nativists want to prevent immigrants from coming into America? Why were other forms of discrimination that you're going to mention within your period? Those are really good questions. Why did that discrimination exist over those centuries? In your thesis claim, you're going to express the issue you chose through a claim. It has to be compelling and engaging. So a thesis claim needs to have several different parts to it, and you've talked about this in English. So make sure your thesis claim is clear about what you're going to prove in your enduring issues project. Background information. You need to fill this out. Just because it looks like it's one line here, no, it can be expanded to a paragraph. It should be at least a paragraph that has dense information about what your topic's going to include, okay? Needs to be at least well thought out and have some specific detail in it. How and why does this enduring issue affect people? You should, again, answer that question in a way that's thoughtful. All types of discrimination, if you were going to talk about, affect people. They affect those people that are being discriminated against, and it also affects those people that discriminate. So you need to be specific about that. How has this enduring issue been a turning point in American history? Talk about each particular part of your enduring issue. What are the turning points? What made a difference over time? Think about that and answer that question. Make sure it's clear. Answer the how and why. Now your events and evidence should be, again, you have the year and you have the event. So that just requires us to put what the event is, but you should explain it in that. After you put the event, explain it a little bit, okay? Make sure it's clear the specific event, the cause and effect. What did this event cause? What was the effect, the impact of it? Now, so you should include that in the event, and then you're going into positive impact of the event in history. Again, be specific. Include specific detail that's rooted in historical evidence. Don't just make an assumption and say, well, it was like this because. No, you need to be, as a historian, very specific about evidence that you put forth. You need to also cite evidence that you get. So each one of these, you need to put the source information in below. So positive and negative impact. Again, you're describing positive and negatives. You're not making an assumption. You're putting in a specific fact. Now, the how does this source, how is this supported? How is this important to your issue? Why was this important to your issue? Those are good questions. Answer those in that box. Again, primary sources can be images. They're all listed there. Include a couple of examples. You need at least one primary source and one secondary source for your examples. Make sure that you put in the primary and secondary source boxes the specific link, the citation, so that you don't forget about that. All right, so that's one, and then two, you do a second one. Make sure that you're putting specific information in here. Don't be general. Don't try to limit your information because you're trying to rush through it. You have plenty of time to work on this project, so don't be rushing through it. It's okay to put information in advance, but just make sure that you try to keep an order to it. Make sure that you are trying to go chronological. If you can't go chronological because you're sort of dipping in stuff, make sure that you number it later on. And when you're putting together your Google site or your documentary, some kind of visual, you're including that information in a chronological order so it makes sense. Okay? I'm going to give you another video too that I want to talk about right now, and that is your sources and where you get them. So what I'd like to do is go to the Enduring Issues folder again and go down here to this section, Grade 8 Enduring Issues Databases. Now in this database, I found one of the best sources for getting information is, you see how I have Grammarly coming up here a lot, because I do use Grammarly and it does help. So please use Grammarly or spell check as you're going through your information so your information is spelled correctly. I'm seeing a lot of typos, a lot of misspellings in some of your graphic organizers or even in your questionnaires. Spelling counts. Spelling, if you can, make sure that you're doing your best to use spell check and Grammarly and anything else that will help you be accurate in your information. Okay? Now, I want to use this database here, ABC Clio American History. Now, the link is Bronxville MHS/look. That is your password. It should automatically bring the password up, but if it doesn't, you need to add it. But look what happens when I click on this. It automatically inputs it in. So then I hit login. All right. It brings me to this database. Again, your Bronxville High School, because we don't have the middle school listed there. And again, this gives you, then you're going to go to click on continue. And then it goes to time periods. Now, since I want to specifically choose an issue that I want to do research on, I'm going to click on advanced search here. And then as I go through each one of these, say my issue is, let's just choose one. Let's choose one, discrimination. Let me just move this over a little bit. Now, if you want to choose like a type of discrimination, you can, but discrimination in America, and you want to sort of boil it down a little further, you can find different types of discrimination. So let's look through the list. General resources. So we're going to want maybe timelines, which would be good, reference articles, biographies, facts and figures, and then maybe photos and illustrations, political cartoons. Speeches would be good because we'll want to, and then I saw one over here, maybe political documents, cultural documents might be interesting too, to see how people respond. And in here, I saw one that was for quotes, but I don't see that here. But anyway, so I'm going to do a search using those terms. Okay, it's going to come up with a whole bunch of things that talk about and give you different time periods. If you look through here, it mentions the World War II time period. It then goes into articles that talk about a nation in upheaval, during globalization and the time of the exploration and people moving in. It talks about how U.S.-born natives were impacted. There's about Jim Crow laws in the South that were discriminatory, obviously during, the Civil War, the antebellum period. And then we have discrimination from the 1940s, which talks about after World War II and Cold War. It talks about different kinds of discrimination, during World War II. Then we talk about there's other types that have here, that you have here that you can look at. So there's a lot of information in here that really does help. Here's a Native American who had a biography, which was really good. Here's one on exodusters during the westward expansion and how African Americans moved to the West and how they were treated and opportunities. So positive and negative there. And then you have conferences were held. You know, the NAACP was formed in the early part of the 20th century. And this talks about, this has different types of resources there. So again, you see and here's one on the Chicano movement, a lot of different ones. Here's the March on Washington that happened in 1941, but there was also one that happened in 1963 with Martin Luther King. You have references back to the Federalist Papers, discussions about, things like this. Other messages that happen in presidential speeches. And then, all these different pieces are coming out just because you narrowed it down, discrimination in America, and you had 563 results. There's a lot. If you narrowed it down even further, you could get even more specific information. So definitely use this resource again, and make sure that you're putting real good detail into your documents, your Enduring Issues graphic organizer. Take your time to do it right. Don't go back and try to throw in general information. This project should be a real strong capstone for you. It should be something that you look back and you really treasure as part of your 8th grade experience. And I want to make sure that's done thoroughly as a historian. Okay? Any questions, please join me on Zoom.